It's been 7 years since I'm so sorry. I've deprived you of this incredible love story. This is one of the best love stories ever. I'm just going to put it in the calendar somehow. Okay, anyway. John Blanchard, I'm going to read it. John Blanchard stood up from the bench, straightened his army uniform, studied the crowd of people making their way through Grand Central Station, that's New York. He looked for the girl whose heart he knew, but whose face he didn't. The girl with the rose. Wow. His interest had begun 13 months in a Florida library. Taking a book off the shelf, he found himself intrigued, not with the words of the book, but with the notes penciled in the margin. The soft handwriting reflected a thoughtful soul and an insightful mind. In the front of the book, he discovered the previous owner's name, Miss Hollis Maynell. With time and effort, he located her address. She lived in New York City. He wrote her a letter introducing himself and inviting her to correspond. The next day, he was shipped overseas for service in World War II. During the next year and 1 month, the two grew to know each other through the mail. Each letter was a seed falling on their hearts. A romance was budding. Blanchard requested a photograph, but she refused. She felt that if he really cared, it wouldn't matter what she looked like. When the day finally came for him to return from Europe, they scheduled their first meeting, 7 p.m. at Grand Central Station in New York. "You'll recognize me," she said in her letter. "You'll recognize me by the red rose I'll be wearing on my lapel." So at 7 p.m., he was at the station looking for a girl whose heart he loved, but whose face he had never seen. Now, Mr. Blanchard tells the story in first person. He says, "The young woman was coming toward me. Her figure was long and slim. Her blonde hair lay back in curls from her delicate ears. Her eyes were blue as flowers. Her lips and chin had a gentle firmness, and her pale green suit, she was like springtime come alive. I started to move toward her, entirely forgetting to notice she wasn't wearing a rose. As I moved, a small provocative smile curved on her lips. 'Going my way, soldier?' she murmured. Almost uncontrollably, he said, I made one step closer to her, and then I saw Miss Hollis Maynell. She was standing behind, almost directly behind the girl, a woman well past 40. She had graying hair tucked under a worn hat. She was a little more than plump, her thick ankled feet thrust into low-heeled shoes. The girl in the green suit was walking quickly away. I felt as though I was split in two. So keen was my interest to follow her, and yet so deep was my longing for the woman whose spirit had truly been with mine and upheld my own. There she stood, her pale, plump face was gentle and sensible. Her gray eyes had a warm, kindly twinkle. I didn't hesitate anymore. My fingers gripped the small, worn book that was to identify me to her. It wouldn't be love, but it would be something precious, something maybe even more precious, a friendship. I squared my shoulders and saluted and held out the book to the woman, even though while I spoke, I choked back a little disappointment. I'm Lieutenant John Blanchard, and you must be Miss Maynell. I am so glad to meet you. Can I take you out for dinner? The woman's face broadened into a tolerant smile. I don't know what this is about, son, she answered, but the lady in the green suit who just went by begged me to wear this rose on my coat. And she said, if you were to ask me to dinner, that I should go, or that I should tell you she is waiting for you in the big restaurant across the street. I love this story. She says it was some kind of test. Tell me who you love, said the French poet. I will tell you who you are. Tell me what you expose yourself to, and I will tell you who you love. It's all a domino effect. There is, though, a certain strength and beauty and depth to this man being willing to commit, even though it wasn't attractive. You know what? That's what marriage is in sickness and in health, in riches, forsaking all others. I commit to you. Oh, sure, there's a lot of attractive time, but there's some time where you want to opt out. But the invitation, the biblical invitation, the invitation from the very the lips of Jesus is to make a commitment, loyal even when it's unattractive.